Today's guest will use the assistance of an interpreter to find out if she can get ahead financially. Welcome to the show, Suzanne. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Tell me your story.
Hello, Sybil. Yes, I'm from Courtenay. I was born and raised up in Courtenay, and I was the only deaf person in my family. I have one younger sister, and she was hearing, as were both my parents.
Was that a challenge growing up?
Very much so. Because of the communication, of course, and communication is key within a family. And my sister could sign, but my parents never really learned sign. So it was very difficult to communicate and to feel like I was really involved with the family, that I was always missing out on things.
Do you find that kids tend to learn things quicker than adults do?
Definitely. My sister wanted a relationship with me, of course, right? So my parents ended up depending on my sister to sign with me to be able to communicate with me.
That would be frustrating at times.
It was very frustrating.
So are you working now?
Yes, I am. I actually have 3 jobs. I work full-time at the Island Deaf and Hard of Hearing Centre here in Victoria. I work Monday to Friday there. One of my other jobs is part-time janitorial work in the evenings. And my 3rd job, I'm a community support worker. I work one-on-one with an individual on the weekends.
Wow, when do you find time for fun?
Well, I don't have much of a social life because of all this work. On Saturday, I try and rest and get caught up on life.
Do you enjoy what you do for work?
Very much so. I love my work. Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about your role at Island Deaf and Hard of Hearing.
Well, Island Deaf and Hard of Hearing Centre is a nonprofit agency. I've worked there now for 5 years. And we have 4 different programs within the centre. We have the employment program, the hearing health services, interpreting services, and the family and community program. And that's where I work, in the family and community program. So I work with families who may have a deaf child, a deaf baby or a deaf young child, and the parents are hearing and don't really know how and what to do with their deaf children. So I go in and work with the family, teach them sign language. I'm a role model for the family, a deaf role model for them. And also, clients will come in and meet with me at the office. They might need some support with English. So for example, if they receive a letter from somebody, a government agency or somewhere, they receive a letter, because it's in English, of course, that's not their first language, so they may not understand the letter well. So they will then come in for some support. And I will sign the letter to them to help them understand what the letter's about, and then provide them any support that they may need to then follow up on a letter that they've received. So I actually work with all ages, really, from young children all the way up to seniors.
Wow, it sounds like a rewarding job, and I can see your passion coming through. Now, how do you feel when it comes to money?
Well, with finance, I feel, I do work in the nonprofit sector, so, you never really know if your job is secure. We depend, at the Island Deaf and Hard of Hearing Centre, we depend on grants and funding and donors to keep the agency viable. So if that's not happening, then it's challenging for the agency to continue. So funding is very important, and the services are hugely important for the deaf community. So it's always hard to know how secure is my job in that sector. And also with investments, I'm always wondering, should I keep doing that or not? Or, how will those turn out if I keep, putting into them?
So what's your big question for me today?
Well, I've been thinking an awful lot about my future and my finances, and so I'm really trying to just figure out whether buying a home or a condo or a townhouse is something that I should be looking at doing. I've just recently found out that my landlord is going to be selling the house. So I'm like, oh no, you're going to be selling, so I'm going to have to move again. So, that's really challenging. And, having to keep moving is really frustrating. So I would really like to purchase my own place, but I'm hoping I might be able to do that, but I don't know if I could.
Well, we'll answer that question in just a minute. Don't go away. Find out if Suzanne will buy or rent after the break.
The Wealthy Life is brought to you by investment dealer Raymond James. Life well planned. See what a Raymond James advisor can do for you.
Welcome back. We're here with Suzanne and our interpreter to help Suzanne learn what it takes to become a homeowner. Suzanne, before the break, you mentioned your concern over buying a home so that you have some stability. You don't want to get booted out of your place again. Let's have a look and see if you can afford it. What are you paying in rent right now?
I pay $825 a month for my rent.
And do you have to pay utilities as well?
It includes most utilities, but I do have to pay my TV, my cable.
If you were to own your own place, would you be able to afford a little bit more than that $825 a month?
Yes, I could.
What's your limit?
I would say about $1,000.
Okay. And do you have any savings yet?
I do.
Enough for a down payment? Maybe.
I'm not sure.
We'll go through what that might look like. Are your savings in an RSP, tax-free savings account, or other vehicle?
Yes, I do have those.
So tell me a little bit about the different types of accounts you have.
I have an RDSP and an RRSP and a tax-free account.
Oh, perfect. So the Registered Disability Savings Plan is primarily designed for later, for retirement years. So you won't be able to access much, if anything, out of that account to put towards buying a home. But your tax-free savings account, you can withdraw that money to use as a down payment. And you can use your RSP money as a down payment as well under a home buyer plan, which is great. If we want to keep your payments close to the same as you're paying in rent right now, you're likely looking at a condo, not a house, which is lower maintenance, so that's okay anyway. And we'll need to factor in strata fees and utilities and mortgage payments. That brings the purchase price, the maximum purchase price at today's interest rates, to about $130,000 with a minimum 5% down payment. If you have more in savings, then your price can go up from there. $130,000 is what you could borrow. So if you put a $6,500 down payment, plus some closing costs of about $1,500, your mortgage payment would be about $700 a month. But then you need to add in, don't get too excited, then you need to add in your strata fees, which might be a couple hundred a month, and your utilities and tenants insurance. But if you have enough to put that down payment down and can find a place for about $130,000, you can be a homeowner. How does that sound?
It sounds fantastic. It does make sense. Yeah, that's really helpful information.
I think you have some shopping to do.
Yes.
And thank you, Suzanne, for being on the show. And thank you to our interpreter, Christy. It's been great having you here.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Up next, we'll learn the top tax tips for families and seniors.